What's up? So this is not, if you can tell by the title, this is not going to be an update video. One of those should be coming out relatively soon, actually. It all depends on when a number of shit actually arrives. Because I'm recording this on Thanksgiving week, so I could be out next week foreseeably. But anyway. This is a video that's a little bit more cathartic just for me than it will be for really anybody else. Because this one fine gentleman, the Full Metal Ginger, and I just got done watching his video not that long ago, why I'm an atheist, and in that he mentioned basically his reasoning for why he has the lack of belief for what he believes, and I feel like it'll be kind of cathartic for me too. So, if you don't want to watch this, I completely understand. Just like the rest of my content, this is probably going to be fucking dog shit, but whatever. So I'll link Full Metal Ginger's channel in the description, and because he makes better content than I do, and I'm also going to link my future baby daddy's channel in the description too, Kevin. But I'll link both of them because, like Ginger said, fucking Kevin being able to do personal shit videos, that kind of makes me feel more comfortable doing this. And then, I'll link Sean's fucking channel too, because he's done a couple of them, like his albums that mean the absolute most to him, delving deep into a couple stories and shit like that. But yeah, so I started off life.
I don't know what you mean by
fuck off, Siri. But I started off life the same way anybody does, really not given two fucks about what religion you are. I was not born into a religious household, or at the time anyway. I was not born into a religious household. My dad at the time just kind of, he believed, but he didn't actively worship. And my mom was of the same mindset that I'm at right now, was, if you have somebody come up to your door trying to proselytize, we don't accept solicitation here. We're not selling anything. You're trying to sell me your God. But yeah. So anyway, she was of the same mindset I am, and she was going through life pretty fucking depressed constantly. Like she'd go to work, come home, just lay down on the couch. She didn't really have the drive to do much of fucking anything else. That's not to say she wasn't involved in my life. She was. She still is. She was even then, but it was she said it herself. It was hard for her to get up in the morning. And she'd just go through that constantly, which, I've been there too. I'm 20 years old. I suffer from fucking, hold on. My bad. Clinical depression. I always want to say chronic for some fucking reason. But I suffer from clinical depression, and that's self-diagnosed, but it's not like the Tumblr fucking SJW fucking way of saying, oh, I've been sad for like 2 weeks, I'm clearly depressed, or I'm so OCD and ADHD, I can't pay attention to anything ever. Like it's to the point where my mom was at, where there are some days where you just want to lie down in bed, you don't want to get up, and it's hard for you to go out and do absolutely fucking anything else. And I mean anything. But anyway, like I said, I understand where she was coming from. I'm in that same place right now, and continue to be into the foreseeable future, whenever it may or may not go away. But eventually, at one point, she one of her coworkers saw she was struggling, reached out, and she told my dad, "I think we need to go to church." And so they took us. They took me, rather. I was an only child at the time. They took me to church, and I enjoyed the time that I had at the young kids group, because I believe I was only about 2003. I was only about 6 years old. So they took me. I had a good time there, and eventually it came time for. I was around Halloween, actually, and instead of going trick-or-treating, they decided to take me to the family fun fair, which was the church's version of Halloween. Basically, you get candy and you get to do games and shit and blah, 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 blah. But they took me to that, and the day after, which was Sunday, they had a guest preacher in, and pardon me if I'm itching like I've got open sores, but I just got out of the shower, so this area on my body is a little dry. But they took me, and they asked me if I wanted to be saved, and I said yeah, and I got saved again the next year at the family fun fair, and just kind of fell into this spiral of only the Bible's right. Anybody who doesn't believe it is a heathen. They need to be shunned. I was a very, very hardcore right-wing Christian mentality of if you're an atheist, you're a douchebag automatically. You have no morals. Blah blah blah. And God, like 10 or 11 years later, come 2014. After being exposed to, if you've watched my response to Wyatt Xham's video of how I got into extreme metal, you know that it was I grew up on Iron Maiden and Disturbed, and my parents cut that out of our lives, and then they brought in Disciple, they brought in Jonah 33, they brought in Demon Hunter, As I Lay Dying, Haste the Day, which for the most part I love three of those bands that I just named still. But I just fell into that cycle, and I was still into relatively extreme music. I discovered Antester at one point, but there was during 2014 I started to have questions about my faith, right? I started to have a lot of questions, actually. And the thing is, I think one of the catalysts for this might have been if you don't know, I was homeschooled from middle school to high school, and during middle school to high school, my family, meaning my mom, because she is a stay-at-home mom now, she has been for since I was in third grade or so, because she got laid off, and my dad fortunately has been able to make enough money for her to have the opportunity to be a stay-at-home mom. But we were going to a co-op, which is basically once a week, but a bunch of other homeschool kids would get together and do what is the equivalent of middle school and high school, just go from class to class for only about 4 hours out of the day. And one of my friend's moms actually was teaching a class about creationism, and I feel like this is a catalyst because of this person. So thank you, Mr. Ken Ham of AnswersInGenesis.com for helping me. But he started. A lot of his answers I felt like were extremely ridiculous. Like there was no death before the fall of man, so these creatures, velociraptors, Tyrannosaurus Rex, they were. Not only did they live in harmony with man in the Garden of Eden, and not only were they just killed out by the flood, that's why they don't exist anymore, they also were vegetarians. Everything was a vegetarian. Lions, fucking wolves. Everything was a vegetarian. So his answers, I felt like, helped catalyst this, because I felt like his answers were kind of ridiculous. And later on, during that year, I went to a concert with my uncle. It was the Carcass, Exhumed, and Noisem concert, and that was also in 2014. And it's the same year I heard The Satanist by Behemoth, my favorite album ever of all time, and you fucking know that if you've been on this channel even once. But it's the same year I heard that, and then later on in the year also, that was in November actually, but in December I started having even more doubts. I was thinking to myself, how can I believe some of this stuff? Like, as my brain started to, reach the age of reason, and this is not an indictment to any of you watching who believe in God or anything. This is, and I'm not trying to really paraphrase, or when I say an indictment, I'm not trying to paraphrase or steal fucking Full Metal Ginger's language that he used in his video about why he's an atheist. Pardon me. But this is not an attack on any of you. I really live your life how you want. I really don't give a damn what you believe, as long as you don't try to shove it down my throat. I won't shove my atheism down your throat and tell you, well, you're stupid for believing this, because I don't do that. I live my life free. I just don't fucking care what you believe in. There's no reason for me to care. But later on, I was having even more doubts, and I had discovered one video in particular from, who was it? It was, I believe it was Official GATG, and he was giving his reasonings, blah blah blah. It wasn't just an outright, hey, I'm an atheist video. He's like, he was doing a co-commentary with somebody else, the Mr. Random Xbox, and he said that he had deconverted from Christianity to atheism. And I thought, wow, that puts even more holes in that. And I didn't really give it much thought, although I still had all these questions rolling around in my head until about late spring of 2015. I had discovered Armored Skeptic's channel. I went over to a friend's house, and he ended up passing out on me for some reason. But I went over to his house, so I plugged in my phone. I was going through YouTube, just seeing, what was up. And I discovered Armored Skeptic, and I started just kind of binge watching his videos for like 4.5 hours. And that poked even more holes in my argument, more and more, and that wasn't meant to be sexual. That just poked more and more and more holes in my arguments for why I believed what I believed. And eventually, I was just like, is there really anything to be had out there? Is there any God? I don't know. And another thing was, as that Armored Skeptic said, and I believe it was his Night at the Museum, or his Nut at the Museum, or the first video with Megan Fox, the blonde bitch. He had said that science doesn't know. We don't know all the answers. How's that? And I thought, damn, that makes a lot of sense. And based off of all the other evidence and things I had read through articles and seen fossils and heard about the fossil layers and actually looked those up and saw how accurate those were, I thought, that makes sense. And then later on, I discovered, who was the next one? It was Logic, actually. I discovered him, and I saw him just poking apart Kent Hovind, and I saw him poking apart Hello, I'm a Scientist, whoever that guy was. But I just had his videos on the background while I was playing God knows what at that point, and it just kept poking more and more holes, and I realized, holy shit, I guess I don't believe in God, which is really cathartic for me. I realized, hey, it's okay not to have all the answers. And so far, what science has said as opposed to what Christianity has said has made more sense. So I went with the side of science, and I really hate to sound like that edgy neckbearded fuck. Science is the only right thing to believe in, but science had what had been presented to me on the side of scientific research had been more accurate, in my opinion, to that of what everybody else in my family had been trying to tell me. And at the time, I did not want to come out to my family. I did not want to fucking come out to them and say, hey, I don't believe in God anymore. I was genuinely afraid I was going to be kicked out. I had watched and heard all the fucking horror stories about how parents fucking disown their kids because of lack of belief in Jesus, or that one fucking mom who said, oh, you don't believe in God anymore? Well, you're not getting any presents for Christmas. Okay, that's like, I didn't want to have any repercussions, so I just hid it to myself. And my God, I'm sorry. And so I had told my uncle, he's like, you didn't tell your parents, did you? No. Well, that's a good thing. Because he understood that they would probably freak out. And I had told, one friend at the time, who I don't really talk to anymore. I can't even remember his name. And then I had told who was to me my girlfriend, Amanda. And that's kind of what helped spark our friendship even more, was the conjoined lack of belief in God before we ended up dating. Was it helped me. It was cathartic to have my uncle who understood where I was coming from, and it was very, very helpful to have somebody who was as close to me as Amanda was, who unfortunately isn't anymore, but that's personal business I don't feel like going into, because that's an entirely different subject, and those of you who know me personally, you understand why I don't talk with her anymore. But anyway, it was nice to have two people on my side. And then later on, late summer of 2015, actually, my uncle, he gave me these beforehand, but he gave me, I believe it was 4 Decibel magazines of best black metal albums, best doom metal albums, best death metal albums, and best, I think, traditional heavy metal albums. I might be wrong. No, thrash albums. And at one point, my mom had discovered them in my room, and she's like, what the hell are these? Where'd you get these? Like, I got them from Uncle Jay. Figures. Oh, whatever. She didn't do anything about it. And then at one point, I had gotten back home from the gym, and I showered and went to go take a nap, and I went up and went to the kitchen table because it was dinner time and everybody was crying. My parents were both pissed off, and one thing led to another, and I came out to them that I am an atheist, and to this day they still basically indict me. They think I'm stupid and da. I told them my reasoning, and it doesn't make sense to them, which, fair enough. They can believe whatever the hell they want to believe. I really don't care. I don't get paid to meddle in their lives, and even if I was paid to meddle in their lives, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna force my views down anybody's fucking throat. Very passive about it. And so I told my uncle, I told my Amanda, who actually, no, she was not my girlfriend at the time. She was still just my friend. But I told my uncle, I told Amanda, and I was like, hey, it just came out, and I really need somebody to talk to right now. I was bawling my damn eyes out, and sure enough, they were there, and that's basically the story of how from my beginnings, starting out more or less from 6 years old as a Christian, all the way up until 17, when I just did not fucking believe anymore. So if you watch through this almost 20-minute video, thank you. I appreciate it. I just I wanted to get this off my chest, and I want to also, again, I want to thank Full Metal Ginger for making a video like this, and my future baby daddy, Kevin, for doing personal videos, and Sean, because it makes me feel a little less awkward knowing that other people in this little circle jerk we have fucking do this. It makes me feel a little less awkward. But yeah, this should be the last personal video, definitely, at least until fucking next year. Hopefully for the next 5 years. But, if there's anything else I want to get off my chest or feel comfortable telling you, the audience, might make a video on it. I might not. I might make a video and then scrap it because I feel like it doesn't need to be shared, but whatever. Like I said, a new update video will be coming hopefully soon, and then there should be one more video after that. And yeah, so thank you guys again so much for listening, if you did. And I will see you guys later. I will be back to music in the next video. Promise.